Alright, welcome to Just Magic the Gathering. I was looking to, in a way, spend tokens. At this point, I haven't actually decided any of the tokens I'm going to exchange. But this video is intended as, I guess, more of like a deck strengthening exercise. What I was doing was, I guess, where to spend tokens. I did tweak my Shrines deck a hair. I just swapped out trying to remember what I did swap out and put in the Mechanist. I was wondering about the strength of my Shrines deck in general. Going back to like if I wanted to put some tokens into it, what would I actually do? The main thing I don't like about my Shrines deck is that it's susceptible to banish. This is the only way I can get creatures on the board. I don't have anything like Confiscate or anything that can allow me to take their creatures, so unless I actually have creatures in this deck, there really is no overall win condition. If I lose 4 of my cards, then it's game over for me. And that's not where I'd like my deck to be. Having more than one way to win the game would be ideal. And that's where in some ways I liked my mill deck. That I have control, I have some creatures, I have I don't know. Either way, I did swap out for the Mechanists. And I already at a certain point did some of this offline. I was looking at initially my Sultai deck. I have enough to be able to finish off my Sultai deck, but my Sultai deck is in no shape or form ready. I mean, it's 87 of the 60 cards. And some of the things that I like about this deck don't really fit its theme, if you will. When I was looking at... I was wondering if I'm making like a Confiscate deck, there's a duplication card where I can like copy target enchantment. So it works really well with being able to get other things out. I like my mill deck, and going back to when I was looking at my new mill deck, there are some improvements I can make here. I don't really have the shrines to support having the White Lotus. The shrines are my main mechanic of being able to get my lands out, and I like the ability in a way to be able to go hunting for them if needed. But ultimately, there's enough other cards here that having the White Lotus slows me down. I was wondering about actually exchanging some of my tokens for more generic or nicer land cards. I don't have a bunch of nice land cards because I've been going more for normal cards. With that being said, when I was looking at... I actually looked at splitting the last deck, the Sultai deck, and making it basically a replication deck. And when I was looking at the replication deck, because I just say copy, extravagant replication. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of another non-land permanent you control. So you can I can copy basically anything on my board state. It works well. I mean, it's expensive, but compared to some of the other expensive things in this deck, doesn't struggle with expense. Either way, I was looking at making a deck based around extravagant replication and some of the blue control. And I ran into a couple mill cards that I have in my library that I don't, in a way, know why aren't in this deck. This makes my blue spells cheaper, and if an opponent would mill one or more cards, they mill that many cards plus 4 instead. That works perfectly with like my River Churn Monument. And black mills expecting you can pull out. There was another. Give me just a second. Oh, the sieges. The Glacierwood Siege. When it enters, when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, target player mills 4 cards. So all my instants and sorceries will now also go towards my win condition. I really liked the siege. I had somebody play this on me at one point where they had enough mana out, they were able to basically keep pulling things out of their graveyard. So they'd mill 2 of their own cards and sacrifice this land to return another target permanent card from their graveyard to the board. And that works with something big like Bahamut, or it doesn't matter. Anything you can intentionally put in your graveyard or ends up in your graveyard, you can pull back out with this card. For 5. But that also can pair perfectly with the Sultai part of this. You may play lands from your graveyard. So if I sacrifice the card, it ends up in my graveyard, I can just put it back on the board. And it doesn't enter tapped or anything. I mean, I kind of like the looks of that. Where I was, in a way, going with the next step would be what to take out, because I'm now 4 cards heavy. And touching up my lands, because I wasn't sure if I actually wanted to do something like this. But there's definitely some work I can do in lands. Sorry, board kitty. There's before work to do in lands. Lost train of thought for a second. On the note of lands, when I was looking for lands earlier, I don't know how I missed the tricolored land that was actually for this deck. Because black, green, blue. I'd rather have like 4 of these than the 4 of the White Lotuses. I don't have that, but I have that in tokens. That would take me 3 of my 8 uncommons. And I was very much thinking about doing that. And yeah, I think that'll make that the stronger in general. One of the other ones I decided to do was put the Verges back. Because it was the black, green, and blue, green. This deck doesn't really struggle for land. So I can drop one of both of those. I'm down to 20 lands. And I still need to take out 4 of something. And in a way, I was wondering about dropping the Kidnap. I like the House Meld. If anything, I should almost double down on some of the... like the draw. I was almost wondering if I should drop a Siege or one of my Journeys. Ideally, I'd pick up like 1 more Singularity Rupture and 1 more Omniscience. Because if that's really my main win condition, having more of those in this deck would be nice. The one thing I was also wondering about with, as opposed to the hero's downfall, for 3, there's overkill, which in a way I like better than hero's downfall. It doesn't apply to planeswalkers, but you can basically kill any indestructible with it. So the one thing like the 820 wall or turtle that's heckled me a couple times, something like overkill will deal with nicely. I mean, I would also have to have. I mean, Hero's Downfall does the same. Well, it doesn't do the same thing because it's indestructible. Or this allows me to deal with indestructible things. So it would be like the Wall of Ba Sing Se and the whatever is the Crystal Wall. There's a couple things that this would allow me to deal with where like the Hero's Downfall doesn't. And it's for the same cost, although it only has the one. I was thinking about dropping both of these and going there. Without being able to have any... This leaves me no way of dealing with... planeswalkers, but with that being said, only having 3 cards in my deck that allows me to deal with planeswalkers isn't really the best plan anyways. So I should maybe look to do something stronger in general there. But yeah, I was pretty happy with that. I think that'll help strengthen the deck a lot. Or one of the things this deck has struggled with is the mana stability of getting all the mana it needs out. And if I have the Opulent Palace for the tricolor land, and then the few dual lands I have, and what in a way started this is I do have some tokens. But before I actually spend tokens, I could do something like put in the Desert Sea Note. I kind of like this one. It matches the cards that are in my hand. There was the mill and retrieve from my graveyard. That also makes my deck a little more susceptible to graveyard hate. I had a multiversal passage, and that would, I think, be a great addition. Yeah, so... I have 2 of the Valkoth Slayers. The only thing... This can be handy in that it has hexproof and therefore is invulnerable with something like Confiscate. Unless they also have something like the... oh, yeah. I don't have it in this deck. The Nowhere to Run. I think I'd actually rather have the Nowhere to Runs in here than the Momentum Breaker. I'll have to think on that. Yeah, and once again, it enters tapped, but I can choose a color. And the Starting Town's one that I can have it be a flex land for 1 life. I've seen people play Starting Town. So if I throw that in there, I can take out 1 of each of these. That does push me more towards my plazas not getting me as much. Because I now only have 12 basic lands. But that should be enough to support my deck. So yeah, with that, I am going to call it good for updating my thin Sultai deck. And I was also going to basically delete my other... I didn't like the fact that I didn't exchange for my tokens. My main Sultai deck that this came from. I was questioning now I can just basically rename this one to... drop down here because it's no longer valid. Name it to my mill deck. But yeah, I'm happy with that. And I look forward to giving it a try.